What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. The setup for Bitcoin is actually a little less straightforward compared to yesterday, although yesterday didn't end up playing out that well either. We ended up getting our second loss of the year, putting us at 7 wins and 2 losses so far for the year of 2026. Now, today I'm hopefully going to try to break that losing streak, but honestly, losing streak, 1 loss. But today I'll hopefully try to redeem myself, but based on what the chart is showing at the moment, it's not looking too good. But just to break down what I'm talking about, so far we have a bullish day close yesterday, which means that technically today we are going to be looking for a bullish trade. Now, with that said though, on the hourly chart, you are now forming relatively equal lows all across this area right here. And I cannot in good conscience just tell you to go look for longs today, because not only are you forming relatively equal lows, you have also broken down, right? This entire block here is now going to act as future resistance until proven otherwise, because you've gotten a 1 hourly CISD towards the downside. So today's an instance where, the higher time frame and the lower time frame are both pointing in different directions. And in cases like that, the usual, kind of thing that I would say is, hey, just don't trade, because there has been a ton of days where the direction is immediately obvious, the trade setup is immediately obvious, and those are where the A-plus trades come from. It's almost like when we run into a day here where, we almost have to make an argument for both sides of the equation, where we just end up kind of forcing a trade. However, one thing I will mention about today is the fact that we technically have news later at 8:30 a.m. New York, which means that just because price action doesn't seem to be lining up at the moment, just because there is news, means that there might be something that we can do about this. Well, one thing's for sure, today's going to be one of the rare days where I'm going to tell you guys to go against the daily bias. And again, for reasons that I've already mentioned, but I'm going to repeat it. So on the daily chart, you are already in bearish order flow. Not only did you get a CISD over there, but so far, it's still looking pretty bearish. You could even say that this dump that we're getting right now on the daily chart has been prompted by, price retracing back into this bearish order block at the moment. And because of that, retrace into the order block and down you go. In terms of the 1 hourly time frame as well, that is kind of, reflecting this bearish nature of the day, where not only have we gotten CISD, and at the moment, price is coming back into this fairly gap. And so far, right, just based on what I can see, so far, it's kind of breaking lower, which means that it's respecting that fair value gap. And so chances are, as long as we remain bearish for the day, which so far looks to be the case, then yeah, we wouldn't really expect price to break too far back into the fair value gap, which means that at the moment, this is kind of like a new order block that you can work with also, which means in the event that you retrace into this level right here at 88,150, this is going to be an area where you're going to want to look to take some sort of a short. And ideally, you're going to be taking the short in the news window, which means the hour leading up to the news to the hour after the news. So basically starting from 7:30 a.m. all the way up to 9:30 a.m. If you get some sort of bearish CISD after retracing into either one of these levels, you are going to be good to go. Now, the intraday targets for today is going to be super straightforward as well. Over there, that's 1. Over there, that's 2. Whichever one makes sense. Just look at how price action is going. Again, the fact that you have news today means that there is potentially a catalyst for some sort of volatility coming into the markets today. If we don't end up getting it, then it is what it is. But otherwise, yeah, the only other thing that you're going to want to keep in mind is the fact that because we're trading against the daily bias today, means that means that you really want to see that exact kind of scenario that I've painted out just now happen. Otherwise, you might be looking at potentially a subpar trade, and assuming that we're already going against the daily bias, well, you don't want to add on top of that with doing some stupid things. So just be careful. I'm definitely going to be updating you guys throughout the night on Twitter. Actually, not really guarantee. A couple of days. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm not going to get into too long of a story, but I'm going to be out playing basketball with some of the Taiwanese locals here. They've used me as an excuse to gather everyone around to go for another 4-court game. So it's not something I could really say no to. I was about to be like, oh yeah, my knees are hurting, I'm just going to sit this one out. And then they said, oh, but I mentioned, our Malaysian friend wants to play ball. So that's why everyone came. So yeah, because of that, I may or may not be able to update on Twitter. But if I happen to be on the charts and if I'm able to, drop an update in between games, I will definitely do so. But outside of that, the invalidation scenario for today is just one other scenario to keep in mind is that it's perfectly fine if you end up sweeping this current high on the 1 hourly chart, because there is still technically another fair value gap above, and if that happens, also, if we go into the 5-minute chart, we will see that this will end up becoming some sort of a 3 drives pattern. Well, on a 5-minute, it's already a 3 drives pattern. So in the event that price, just heads lower from here, then yeah, what caused it. But in the event that you kind of sweep above again, then that's going to be a 3 drives pattern on the 1 hourly chart. And as long as you still get that 5-minute CISD around that knees window, you're going to be all good to go for a short. This scenario only really gets invalidated if, we kind of like break fully back into the order block and potentially above $90,000. But as it stands right now, I don't think it's going to happen today. Just understand that even though the daily bias is technically bullish, we are going to be looking for a short today for reasons that I've already mentioned. But outside of that, let's kind of take a look at Ethereum, and let's take a look. Yep, Ethereum, you definitely have a bearish bias, so looking a lot weaker compared to Bitcoin. Now, as far as Ethereum goes, you're going to want to take a short as well, because, well, at the very least, on Ethereum, you have time frame alignment. Now, you have formed this bearish order block. In fact, you are 36 minutes away from forming this bearish order block, as you can see right there. So in the event that you have a candle close below the level of 29.50, this will confirm this as a new bearish order block. And so you're just going to trade this slower as you get 5-minute changes in state of delivery towards the downside. And the ideal trading window is going to be between the hours of, again, hour before news to the hour after news, assuming news is at 8:30 today. That's 7:30 to 9:30. Now, as far as Solana goes, you also have a bearish daily bias. I think compared to Ethereum, I stand by what I said yesterday. Ethereum's looking a little bit more clear as far as the setup goes. But, in fact, I take back my words, because so far Solana has relatively equal lows, which means that a very reasonable intraday target, or even if it's not 2-day, it will likely get hit by the end of the week, is going to be at 116.7, because those are relatively equal lows on the daily chart, which is interesting. So far, you have broken below this low right here. You've gotten a change state of delivery. This is a bearish fair value gap, which means that all you need right now is for price to form a candle close on the 1 hourly chart below $123. When that happens, today is going to be a pretty straightforward setup. So yeah, a lot of what I've talked about on Bitcoin in terms of time frame alignment, well, clearly that is different for Ethereum and Solana. And I think that is a bit of a premonition, right? It's a bit of a foreshadowing of what is likely to happen later throughout the day. Now, one thing that I do want to clarify though, just in case you might be confused about this, is that I'm not breaking the rules of the system. It's more like we have quite a few good reasons as to, you could make a perfectly logical argument that, yeah, even though the daily bias is pointing slightly bullish, basically everything else is pointing bearish. And in situations like this, I do kind of ignore the daily bias and trade what the 1 hourly time frame is telling me instead. At the end of the day, we're trading, all of the trades that we're calling here are intraday trades, which means that we're looking to get in and out within a couple of hours. And ultimately, if you keep that in mind, if you keep the goal in mind, then everything else kind of makes sense. Outside of that, guys, I'm gonna get ready for basketball actually, and we'll see you guys later on Twitter, maybe. Ciao, ciao.